Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Kooperman, and I'm the CEO of SCW Fitness Education. And today, yay, we're celebrating the 100th year anniversary of women getting the right to vote. Oh, look at that. What hand does that look like? Okay, oops, sorry. Said we weren't going to get political. All right, anyway, it's a very exciting time. Last week I watched the Democratic convention. This week I'm watching the Republican convention. I'm just watching because all we do is we watch. But I'm here with some amazing women. I've got Natalie Lacombe, I've got Melissa Layne, and I've got Christine Conti. So I'm thrilled to have you ladies. Why did I pick you? I have no idea why. I think because I like you. And you guys, you come from very diverse backgrounds. So I'm going to introduce them to you. Christine Conti is the CEO of Conti Fitness and Wellness LLC and the New Jersey Fitness Director for Orange Theory Fitness. And she also has a wonderful podcast, Two Fit Crazies and a Mic, right? Yeah? Got
exactly.
It? Love that. Yeah, try to shut her up. That's going to be fun. And then we've got Melissa Layne, who always is quiet, but then when she talks, it's incredibly powerful. She is a kinesiology department faculty member at the University of North Georgia. She has 30 years of experience and a master's degree in exercise physiology. She wrote our oh my gosh, our menopause certification, our nutrition coaching for fitness professionals. She is always coaching women, and she's amazing, amazing educator. And then we've got Natalie Lacombe, who is the former vice president of CanFitPro. She's also on the Fitness Industry Council board member and in Canada, and she is a very successful leadership coach. So we've got these fantastic women with us. And I'm like, we started talking, what are we going to talk about? You know, we're going to talk about whatever we want to. But I'm starting with Christine because you brought up to me what I consider to be one of the cornerstone of when you're trying to achieve success. How do we do this? And what does it mean? What does this 100-year anniversary of women getting the right to vote mean?
So this is such a powerful day, and I don't want anyone to take this for granted because we were talking before, and there's two women, Elizabeth Stanton and Lucretia Mott, and they started, they really started this movement, and it was about 1848. And from 1848, it was not until 70 years until we gained the right to vote. And you have to think about the power of coming up with an idea and putting it into motion and then not seeing it come into fruition for 70 years. That is powerful. And as women leaders, all of us have very different backgrounds. I come from a background of investment banking and teaching, and now in the business of fitness. You have to be patient. And one thing that I wanted to, one thing I've really learned from looking at the suffrage movement is that it took a lot of people and it took a lot of patience and a lot of dedication. That this was about grassroots getting the word out and saying, we will not sit back. And the Constitution says, all men are created equal. Well, guess what? They went forward and rewrote in 1887, all men and women were created equal. That's not in the Constitution, but that was in a document that they wanted to be put forward. And I think that that's important for us as we talk tonight to remember that how did they do it and learn from them. And it goes back to networking. You don't have a door that opens. You've got to build your own door and open it yourself. And these are some of the things that I think, we're going to all speak about and address, because you don't get to where, you don't get to success, whatever that means to you, by sitting back and not working. For me, I grind every day. You pick up that phone or you take that phone call or you get on that webinar like we are tonight because you believe in a bigger cause. I believe in women in the fitness industry. And all of us are here to help all of you network and elevate your career through our experience.
And I love what you said, that you've got to be patient. And another, I love the P words. Another word I think about is being persistent. And, you know, it did take 70 years, and it's being persistent. And I think, you know, I always look at the way women are raised, be a good girl, you know, no means no. And I'm like, in business, no does not mean no. I was talking to Vida. Vida's our bookkeeper. She's been our bookkeeper, oh my gosh, over 14 years. And we've been paying $360, I believe, in our Wi-Fi. And I'm like, why are we spending $360 on Wi-Fi? And we've got nobody in the office, like barely, nobody. So we went back and we said, you have to lower it. And they went down, they said, okay, we lower it to you know, 94, but you have to pay for the previous months at the 360. And it was really interesting because I had to coach Vida over and over again. She'd say, oh, well, they lowered it to 200, da, da, da. And I email her back. No, that's not enough. Go back and ask them to lower that below the $90. She went back. Oh, they lowered it to, you know, to 150. I said, no, that's not enough. You need to go back. She went back, she got them to lower everything to $69 and something cents, okay? And it was, okay, she kind of hated me for that, but then at the end, she was so, she should be, and she was incredibly proud of herself that she just didn't accept it. And I think it's so interesting. I think, you know, I find it in business, if I push, if I want to succeed, I'm doing it. I'm definitely doing it for the right reasons. And I have to be patient in that I can't like lose my cool and just like jump through the screen and want to strangle somebody, even though, as Natalie and I were discussing, we feel like this every other day. But it's just, it's that patience so that you don't strangle somebody. And it's that persistence to just not say no, not accept no, when you know where you're going is right. And accepting as a woman, not being that quiet, demure, smiling, everybody's gonna love me. Because if you're making decisions and you're going out there and you're trying to be successful and you're going for your cause, it's hard. And there's gonna be feathers that you ruffle. And some of them will be flying around like chicken, you know, chicken feathers all around there. Natalie, you're laughing. All right, you're our coach. Go get him, girl. Ooh, you're silent. I'm not quite sure why. Let's see. Can you replug yourself in? Adam, can you help Natalie out at all? She may need to reboot, or it might just be your attachment.
I think just unplug your headphones altogether and let's just go full natural.
But you have to unplug it from the computer source. It is unplugged. I think you should hang up and dial back in. What do you say, Adam?
I agree.
Okay, cool. Melissa, you're stuck with us.
All right, I'll take this one.
Good.
I coach a lot of young females that are graduating and getting ready to take their first job. And a lot of them are stepping into a man's world. They're going to work as a personal trainer. We have a very, very strong strength and conditioning program. And we have a lot of female athletes that want to be strength and conditioning coaches. And so they're walking into a man's world where they have to learn how to train female athletes and male athletes, and they get the door slammed in their face a lot. And I tell them, you have to go back and stick your foot in that door again and again and again, because if they tell you no once and you walk away, that's not the type of person that they want dealing with an athlete. Because what happens when a 7'2" basketball player turns around and says, no, they're not going to do what you want them to do as a strength and conditioning coach? You have to stand up for yourself. And I also tell them to go out and look for women who own their own business. Look for the women-driven businesses they're more likely to hire women and to bring women up with them. And we have to support each other as women business owners.
I agree. And Melissa, you were amazing because remember when you started, you applied and applied and applied, and I'm an idiot.
7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
Lucky 7. I'm such an idiot. And then she's turned into like one of my favorite people. Like right at the beginning of the pandemic, we talked a couple times, you know, about Zoom and what that was going to be like for all of us.
And I was terrified. I was terrified. I was not going to do it.
But you did.
Sara made me, well, you kind of made me do it.
I did make you do it. But you know what? I don't know. Did you call me or did I call you? I probably called you.
I think so.
Yeah. I probably called you, but you did answer and you did talk to me. So it was what you wanted to hear too. You know, we ask people's opinions. You know, you call somebody, we ask people's opinions that when we want to hear their advice. We see, you know, you can never blame somebody, oh, they gave me bad advice. No, you talked to them and you took that advice. All right, Natalie, hit it. Let's see how we're doing. Oh my gosh, what is going on with you?
I don't
You
know.
worked fine. Oh, wait, I just heard you.
Gotcha.
Am I here?
Yes, turn yourself up
Yay.
if you wouldn't mind.
How are you guys doing? So we're good now, thank goodness. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I think for me,
And thank you for your persistence, Natalie.
there's the 2 P's. I'm gonna add a 3P, which is papa, which is I have 2 older brothers, and I think that I was raised by a feminist because my brothers were put in hockey, I was put in ringette. My brothers were put in basketball, I was put in basketball. And so there was never anything different for me in my, you know, as I was raised as a child. And that's how everything's been. I always go in under an assumption that my value is my value. And I never think, oh, what if there's a guy and what if they want a male? It is, I am who I am. And the strength that I bring are the strengths that I bring no matter what it is. And so I think it's really important to not like this whole feminine, masculine energy, whatever, to just be really confident in your value. And that value might be more rambunctious. That value might be more, you know, a little shy, a little this, a little that, a little more intrinsic, a little more resourceful and different things, but that value is strong. And that's what we bring to anything. And so for me, there's always an assumption that I have value in any room, no matter who is in that room. And I think what I'm trying to do now, realizing that that's not the case for everybody else, is to pay it forward. So Sara mentioned Fitness Industry Council of Canada. Very recently, I was elected to vice president. And when I got the board book, I wrote right away and I'm like, am I the only woman on the board? And it's me and a bunch of white guys. And so step 1 as a VP is diversifying and creating inclusion for all kinds of people on that board, because it was shocking to me to see that, even though there's tons of really strong female leaders. But the idea is to lift everybody up and to go at it different ways. So we tend to think about employment and management positions, but Sara, you've worked with WIFA, you've worked with a lot of different organizations, and sometimes it's volunteering somewhere as a board member and doing the work behind the scenes that helps the industry in a non-traditional way. There's a lot of different ways of influencing and raising one another up and collaborating together versus competing with one another.
I completely agree. And Melissa, you're nodding there. How do you deal with these younger women? Is there kind of a consistent theme you're seeing from them that are they scared to enter the workforce? Do they approach things differently than their male counterparts? What kind of differences and what type of encouragement are you supplying them?
I think the biggest thing that I see in the difference between the 2 of them is when females talk to me about their dream job, it's getting the dream job, but it's not getting the money that they believe they are worth. If they have a master's degree, or if they have a certification, or if they've completed their bachelor's degree and they have experience, they're afraid to step up and say, look, these are my qualifications. Can we negotiate my salary? They tend to email me back and say, Miss Layne, I took it. I didn't get the money I wanted, but I took it. And I said, did you ask for the money that you wanted? And they're scared to ask. I said, what do you think is going to happen? Are they going to come back and say, oh, well, if you ask for more, you can't have the job? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say, no, this is our salary. But what's the best thing that's going to happen? You may get some more money, or maybe you can negotiate for an extra vacation week. But don't walk in just settling because it's your dream job and you're a woman, and it may be a dream job for a man also. So I tell them to really stand strong for what they want, and somebody's not going to turn their back and say, I'm not going to hire you because you asked for what you wanted, because they want somebody in that position that's going to be strong, especially if you're working with athletes, or we have a lot that go into physical therapy, a lot that own their own PT clinics. So they have to put their foot down for what they want.
And Christine, talk to me about this. You deal with a lot of Orange Theory, don't you?
Yeah, aside from that demographic, and again, like Melissa, as a teacher, and taking the you had the college women, I had the high school 18, 19-year-old girls who we've got to give them the confidence to move on, to step outside of your comfort zone. And for many people in fitness, like with an Orange Theory or many other different boutique studios, that people are doing this, part-time, or they feel like they don't want to ask for a raise, or, I don't want to lose my job. And I think that the fear is very real. I mean, especially right now, people say, oh, there's no jobs, there's just take what you can get. And really, we're devaluing ourselves. And we went through this with the pandemic, with everyone giving away their goodies and whatnot online for free. You're worth it. And I want to go back to, Sara, you said about ruffling feathers. That's something that we have to learn. And as women, as back in the day, we were the submissive. We were supposed to be quiet. We were supposed to agree and look pretty. And that's not realistic anymore. And that's not to be tolerated anymore. We've been educated, and I'm going to throw this back again. They used to believe that they wouldn't educate women because it would take the blood out of their uterus, and it would take their blood, and then they wouldn't be fertile. Like they're like chaos. Thank goodness for exercise science. The crazy stuff that they would say. But we really have to, like, what we're saying is be confident. But how do you do that? Like it's easy for me to be like, oh, Melissa, just have the girl tell her that she should ask for it. Well, she had you as a mentor. And I think that's the point that we need to get back to, of you don't have to pay bazillions of dollars to have a mentor. But I think having a strong woman in your corner is so important. And, I'm not knocking the men, but having a woman to say, hey, listen, I did this and I got knocked down and I kept getting back up and I'm here for you. Call me on the days where you want to give up. Call me on the days where you feel like you can't do this anymore and the world is against you. That's when you have that mentor, that strong woman. And I had a grandmother who was like an MBA in business, and a mother who was a teacher, and there was no other option except educating yourself. And that's what it was in my family. You educate yourself so you can take care of yourself so that you don't have to depend on anyone else. And that was what was ingrained to me. So no matter what, even though I'm in my third career right now, from banking to teaching to fitness business, whatever I do right now in the world, it was important to know that, okay, you have a strong educational base. So if you're going to go get your education, whether it's college or certificates, or you go to SCW and educate yourself, that you have a base. You have something, and you have got all these people like us who are behind you. Like, you got this. Reach out to us. How can we help you? But I think that's important.
And Natalie, you do coaching, because I think, it's wonderful to find that friend that will support you. Like I've got a few good friends. I think actually Anne is on here right now. And we talk to each other when we kind of, as we say, oh, how are you today? I hate the world. You know, it's like, but it can help support you. But sometimes, you know, those friends are just, oh, I love you. You can do anything. Oh, I love you. It's like, shut up. I don't want to talk to my cousin anymore. Love my cousin. This is another cousin. And I'm like, I need somebody who's going to hold my hand to the fire and get my butt out of bed every morning and help me accountable. And Natalie, how do you do that when you're doing your coaching?
I think a lot of it is the accountability partner. So having someone there who, oftentimes I end the conversation or the coaching call with something along the lines of, so what's our next steps and when is that going to be done and how will you stay accountable for that? Because it doesn't have to be me, but we have to discuss what it's going to be. And I'll tell you, I think the big part of knowing their value is us reminding ourselves of that and negotiating that. And Sara will tell any presenter, and this is funny because Sara at every conference, because we've done the women's leadership events together quite a few times, and Sara always talks about negotiating, and you see every presenter in the room going, I'm going to negotiate with you, Sara, and I'm like, good. She's literally saying,
you're not going to win. But you can negotiate.
You're still gonna do it because it's great. You're literally putting yourself out there to be able to do these things. Because every time we look at pricing and everything else, I usually push everybody I work with to increase their prices about 25%, knowing we're gonna land around 10 or 15, and push them towards 25%. Not to the what's the least or the smallest price I can ask for the services I have that won't make me feel like won't make me flustered. And I'm like, yeah, let's go 25% above that with pretty much everybody I work with. And so little things like that help you say, like, just put it out there. I hate the fact that in fitness, we're like, I'm going to ask for $22 an hour. And then a year later, they're like, well, let me ask for $23 an hour. And then a year later, we're at 24. And I'm like, what in the world is going on versus price what it is. Price it based on the value of what you bring. Be really comfortable with your value, understand what you're worth, and flip everything you do, not into what you've, the jobs you've had, but the accomplishments of those. And so we talked a little bit in the description about resume building, and every single line there on me isn't I worked there for 3 years. I'm like, that's great, you existed. This is not a wedding anniversary. It's actually what you accomplished. And it feels like pulling teeth sometimes with women saying, yeah, so we had 10 clients and then at the end we had 20. I'm like, that's 100% increase in clients. That's what goes in the resume, 100% increase in clients, and fully bringing everything to those accomplishments and being really proud of what those are based on everything that you've done. And it's doable. It's just changing the perspective towards value and the lives that you're serving and the people that you help. And I think we feel that, but we don't put it in writing. Putting it in writing really, really helps.
And I totally agree with you. It's very interesting. I worked at Lifetime Fitness forever. Okay, it was like my favorite place to teach. I taught there for about a decade, and I was teaching aqua class. I was teaching water in motion. It was outside, so I had to wheel my own sound system. I had to plug it in. I had to put this, I had to do everything myself. And I'm teaching my class, and this young guy had to be 16, maybe 17 years old. I'm not done. I'm doing the flexibility part of the workout, and he's walking around with that machine, getting the water off, getting ready for the next class. I'm like, excuse me, can you please wait? Trust me, we'll be done in about 10 minutes, I promise. And I was on time, but he just was kind of ahead and going. Well, he wasn't going to listen to me because I'm wearing this stupid skirt and whatever, a little matching top I'm wearing. I had 50 people in this outdoor pool jumping around. So he just starts right back up again. He unplugs my stereo to plug in his machine and keep going. And the people in the pool are laughing because they know this kid is dead, okay? Dead to me, right? So I walk over and I say, I promise I'll be done in 10 minutes. I've got to put this back in. I pull it out, put my stereo back in, and I keep going. Anyway, he does it one more time. He starts walking over. I said, you touch that, I'm coming after you, right? He let me go because I'm scary and I have 4 boys and I'm not scared to threaten them. Then he goes, I'm going to get my manager. So he goes out to get his manager. Well, the manager was 18 years old. Comes out and there's a frickin' fracker standing there with their arms crossed. And I'm like, fine, let's go get the GM. So we go get the general manager of Lifetime Fitness who comes down. And I said, okay, I have 50 people in this pool. All right. They're each paying about $500 a year. I've got about $25,000 in this pool. I teach 3 times a week. All right. Are we going to cut this short? Are we going to celebrate this membership, this $25,000 membership, and just make sure we stay on time? And the guys are like, well, we're supposed to come in and she's supposed to finish class. And he looks at them and goes, get out of here and don't bother her again. And it's like, you've got to create that value. It was like my mind went click, 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 even if, let's just say they're paying $500 a year, which is $48 a month. And I'm like, no, they're paying about $90 a month, these members. And it's women who make the choice of the membership in the club. Typically 70% of the memberships are the decision makers are the women in the family. And it's interesting. But if you don't give that value and push it, you're not going to get that respect. And by the same token, you have to look at, we didn't value ourselves when this pandemic happened, okay? Meaning we didn't know it was going to last this long. We thought, I don't know about you guys, I thought this will last a couple weeks because it's a flu and we have to be careful. And yeah, I listened to Trump. It'll be over by Easter, right? I'm a good Jew. I can pray along with any Christian if I can take this mask off, right? And it's like, and we didn't think. So we're givers. And the difficult thing is if we take, we feel like we're bad, or if we compete, or if we say no. And it's very hard. And I'm going to tell you guys, it just takes practice. It takes practice saying, I hear what you're saying, but I'm still going to ask you again. And sometimes it's not like Natalie said, it's not this either or, it's that I'm also going to meet you in the middle. So what I did at the end of that whole negotiation with my Lifetime boys is I looked at them and I said, I'm going to take care of you guys. And if you need me to, I'll stop using my music for the last song and you can start cleaning so you don't get behind schedule. And then I bought them food. Feed young men. It worked. My best friends. They always waited until I was done after that. But then you got to compromise. Then you got to pull in that, and I don't know if it's right to say, but that female energy. This is kind of weird. I got this kind of odd question. Adam, I'm going to ask you to help her. There was a woman who asked, she said she's starting a website and she wanted to know if she should use Wix, W-I-X. And I know that we typically use, what's wrong with me? WordPress. Mm-hmm. And there's really great tutorials online. So I'm going to recommend that. I'm going to recommend that to my lovely friend. I think it's Ginger Humber about that. But it's pretty fascinating how we're going to deal with these things now, because now we're stuck with this. I don't know about you guys. We did 3 free webinars a week. We thought we're just going to go and we're going to help the industry. This makes me feel good. The only thing, to be honest with you guys, that makes me feel good is doing these. It feels so, I don't know. It's like, do you know when you start teaching and you're in that horrible mood and then you teach your class and you finish the class and you're like, I was good. I feel good, and if you guys going through this pandemic can also do the giving, I think that helps it. Christine, you're nodding. You do your wonderful podcast and help people that way. And is that sustaining you through this time?
So what I always talk about, and, especially with we're celebrating women's suffrage. It's 100 years. We're celebrating, we're lifting each other up. But we have to remember that we have to network, and it is very important, like you said, to, to go out and meet people and put yourself out there and ask and know your value. It's very scary though, because sometimes people don't know how to ask. And the issue is that people will go with their hand out and say, will you give me money for this, or support me in this way? And for me, I started the podcast after being in the fitness industry for, about 20 years, going at different conferences, and I saw different programs come and go. And I said to myself, what characteristics are key for these long-term fitness professionals? How have they kept relevant for decades? Whereas all these other people come in with these new flashy programs and bam, they're gone. And one of the things is that they truly, like Nathalie said, this is about all of us together. How do we network? How do we work together? And, I sat here and was like, you know what? No one has $1 million for marketing budgets. How do we support each other? And how do we give unbiased information to everybody? So again, my podcast was something that was just, again, hey, you know what? We want to do something to give back. How could we help the fitness industry and without asking for money? And the best thing, and what I really give advice to everyone is that, is there something that you have that you can give value to other people? So when I talk to people and I say, hey, you're really fascinating, let me feature you on an episode. Let me tell your story. Let me promote your business. And it's worldwide, and it's free for listeners, and I'm not asking for any money, but if you can provide someone with some sort of value, then guess what? They're probably going to turn around and say, well, how can I help you? And as a woman, woman owning this business and a podcast and helping produce for other people, let us know how can I help? And now I've given you marketing tools, and that's something I highly recommend to figure out. For me, it was the podcast. What is that going to be for you? I mean, you can go and volunteer here and there, but if you do volunteer, know your worth. What are you getting in return for that? Is it a promotion of something that a program that you're doing? Is it, Nathalie with the coaching too? I'm going to give you some tidbits and some teasers, but now here is something bigger if you would like. I think that's really important to harp upon. And again, with the podcast, I get to, promote, although Melissa, we're coming for you, girl. She dodges people. I know. Got your number.
But, speaking of Melissa, it's also taking your passion and what you're doing. Like Melissa's teaching in school, but then she also writes a book, and then she can make it into a presentation, and she can make it into a certification. So it's also taking that value that you have and being able to leverage it. And Melissa, how did you do that?
I think you have to look at the fact that once you find your passion, and those people that really know me well know I'm not the person that has to be in the spotlight, and I do well supporting other women, and I don't want to say taking a back seat, but I'm secure in who I am. And I think once you find what your passion is, and mine is how the body works, now take it and share it as many ways as you possibly can through the written word. I am a fitness expert on a podcast here in Atlanta with two females that I used to teach with at Lifetime. And they purposely give me topics that they know are going to light me up and just start me on fire and let me talk for an hour. And so I think you really have to be true to what interests you and stick with that. And I think now's a great time when we talk about building resumes. Now is a great time. We have nothing but time on our hands. Some of the universities are offering classes online for next to nothing. The universities lost so much money when they closed on March the 13th and sent students home, and they had to refund activity fees and lab fees and parking fees and cafeteria fees. that now they're trying to make up, and so many things are open to the general public online. And now's the best time to build your resume with certifications. If you want to open your own business, you can take a class on building a website. You don't have to pay somebody to do that. You can learn how yourself. Take a photography class and learn how to barter with somebody where you take photos of them and maybe they build, I don't know, your video library or something. There's so many ways that we can help other women just by doing what we are passionate about and reaching out for someone else who has a little bit of a different passion and trading ideas.
And I like that people are looking for their passion. I also want to encourage you guys, you also need to find what your passion isn't, okay? And that is really important. I'm saying this because one of my sons was in school, University of Michigan, junior, so he's a third year, 3.3 GPA, made the dean's list. I'm going to quit. I don't want to go to school anymore. Again, I'm ready to jump through the computer and strangle this brilliant child of mine. It's not his passion. He doesn't want to go. He wants to figure it out. He just doesn't just want to study whatever. And I'm like, that's just as important, and I have to be patient while he figures this out. But figuring out what you don't want to do is also equally important. Natalie, you're coaching these people for success, and give us a little bit, more insight into how you draw this out from people and how you guide them through this process.
So one of the pieces I find is coming up a lot right now, and I noticed, Sara, that you guys just launched your virtual fitness certification program, is and it's kind of what you guys are pulling in, which is,
you do one as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
It's great.
So, absolutely. And my whole thing was getting people started, just being able to get them to launch. And one of the articles that I wrote that's been the most read is called How I Spent $0 on Tech and Am Teaching Virtual Fitness, because my concern is the stuff that we're buying, because you can't buy your way to success. You can't buy your way to success. You're going to have to grow your way to success. And to points of what Sara and Christine and Melissa are talking about is some of the stuff is learning and growth. Some of the stuff is partnership. And as much as you need to know what you're passionate and what you're not passionate about, you need to know what you learn to do yourself and what you can pay somebody else to do. And we all need to continually figure that stuff out. And I will say to everybody out there, for virtual, sure, figuring out the cheapest way to be able to have tech that works. And then we need to work on ourselves, because you can have 72 ring lights and the best camera in the room, but if you don't know how to coach and teach to a camera, it's not going to work. If there's 4 people in your class instead of the 20 that you want, it's not necessarily because you don't have the right tech. It's not necessarily because you don't have the right music. It might be because of your pricing. It might be because of your lack of confidence towards putting your brand out there. It might be because of the soft skills. It might be because people can't see you, but that may be lighting and may not be lighting. This is the first thing I've done after sundown, and I'm like, I don't have a ring light, and I'm like, I'm gonna find a room in the house. I'm literally under our dining room chandelier, because everything I do is during daylight, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. Okay, but I posted just like, let me find a ring light, because I live in Canada. It's getting
All right, you guys don't know what a ring light is. I went out and bought one.
There you go, Sara. Show you that.
Yeah, there we go. They're $29 on eBay. There you go.
So the lighting to be able to see, because otherwise I'd be sitting in the dark in the room that I usually have. And so I worry that we're spending on stuff, assuming that something external will grow our confidence. I think we need to do the work. And the work has a lot to do with healing the crisis that we're in right now, having to do with this pandemic, and healing our confidence or lack thereof, using one another, not worrying about it competing, not thinking that it's your competitor won't help you. Find who you think is your greatest competitor and ask them for help. And ask them what they use and ask them what their tools are. Reach out to 5 people before the end of the week who you think compete with you. and ask them to see if you guys can come up with a little mastermind together to build everybody up, because really there's a ton of business out there. Just because you don't have 72,000 people on Instagram doesn't mean you can't reach people, even now through virtual. So reach out to people who you think are your competitors, and you'll shine through collaboration. Because if one thing women can do really well is work through community. We're great at that. We just forget sometimes, and we buy things instead of growing ourselves to success.
Now that's interesting. And you say we're really good at community. I sometimes, I'm just going to say this, I sometimes find that women can be very competitive. And it surprises me. Like, Natalie, you and I are doing similar stuff, but we both think it's cool. I mean, and maybe that comes, like Melissa said, she's comfortable with herself. She knows who she is. We're confident. I'm confident. Natalie's confident. We can compete. Sometimes it's like, if I say no, or if I'm trying to do something that's similar, they won't like me. They won't like me. I won't be in the popular clique. I'm not a popular girl. You know what? I was never a popular girl. I was never. And I hope I never am, okay? Because you ever see the movie Mean Girls? Mean Girls was filmed in Highland Park. That was my high school that I went to. I'm not kidding. I'm looking at the lunchroom going, oh, well, that looks familiar. But we can build a community, and we can call different people. Like, I'm good friends with Mo Hagan, who runs CanFitPro. We communicate. We talk, like, I'm going to say a couple times, at least every other week. How you doing? What are you doing? What's going on? What's working? And it's like, it's great because you can both lift up. What I find what's going on in the health club and the fitness industry, everybody does well in January, right? It's not because one is winning over the other. Everybody's doing well. And what happens during August? It always goes down. And it's like, you know, and you can think, well, it's because I'm doing just everything right in January. No, the industry is just good. But this is, I find this just, it's really interesting. And Melissa, are you helping to build this community and support with, you know, like the women students you're working with, and also the gyms that you work with and the trainings that you do?
I try and start my females off from the first class that I get them, teaching them that there is always going to be competition in this business. There always will be. Think about how many times at Lifetime where you were like, okay, I teach in the water Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I have 50 people, and the person who teaches on Saturday, they have 60. Well, that's because it's the only class on Saturday. So you have to stop and look, what skills do you bring to the table that will set you apart from everyone else? And they don't have to be the same skills from someone else. And when you find a spot in your company, your corporation, your group, whatever it is, we were desperate. I don't want to say we were desperate. We had exhausted all of our professors for a cardio conditioning class this semester. And I reached out to someone that I had met through you, Sara, that has a master's degree. And I said, hey, I know you teach group fitness like the back of your hand, and you can do it in your sleep. Do you want to come on board as an online professor? And she was like, I've never taught online. And I was like, I got it. I can take my summer class, move it completely over to your platform, and you're good to go. And we have to learn that by spreading the wealth, we truly are spreading the wealth. When that person has a company where they have an extra spot for somebody, she's going to look to me first. And that's what we have to, not that you're expecting something in return, but you're building each other up.
Oh, I think that's great. And we're getting close. We're like out of time. I don't care. We're going a little over. All right. So that, Melissa, I'm taking that as your beautiful diamond there that we finished. And I'm going to ask Christine, can you give us a little bit of a closing?
I love the fact that we talked about bartering. And I'm going to give you a very personal advice. I had to rebrand, and I have a woman, great friend. She's all marketing. She's all branding. And we bartered. I told her, she said, Christine, this is probably like 10 to 15 grand is going to cost, but you know what? I believe in you. And if you train me, then we'll call it a wash. That's just kind of, you believe in someone, you empower them, and you give someone value, they want to help you. And that's something that it took me a long time to figure out, that people really do love helping people. And selfishly, it feels good to help people. But sometimes we don't ask. And again, the worst thing that could happen, and again, I reach out to people that are, famous people here and there for the podcast and whatnot. The worst thing they say is no, or they don't call you back. And guess what? That's okay. Because as much as you do that, you're going to be surprised the people that do say yes. And those are the people that you need to hold on to. Those are the people that are the bright stars. And when you see people that are like that for you, make sure that you know that you can do that for other people as well. And I have to say that, we've talked about, really making decisions and finding your value and needing to be okay to walk away from something if you don't feel that you are getting the value. I've had this happen. I've walked away from jobs that are, Christine, you could be making bazillion dollars. You're right. But that wasn't where I was supposed to be. It didn't feel right. And you know what? Because I had the courage to do that, because I had other women and my wolf pack of people who said, all right, you got this. You're going to have to work your butt off. They weren't there with pom-poms and cheerleading outfits. They just said, you need to work hard now. However, those doors, like we said, those doors will open for you if you put yourself in the right position. So, if you want to be a, very successful in the business of fitness, yes, you need to be a part of things like SCW, and you need to, reach out to Sara, Melissa, myself, Nathalie. What are they doing? What have we done that maybe we can help you? So I think that's the most important thing that I want to leave everyone with, is that, on this eve of, celebration of, getting the right to vote, number one, you need to vote. Number two is we're all in this together, and how can we help?
And as we're in this together, how do you coach people and get them off the couch and push them, in front of the CEO to ask for that job, get that raise? Natalie, what are your recommendations?
I think it has to do with our perspective. So we were talking about before is kind of looking at the world from a place of scarcity. That's when we see it as competition. As much as right now in the fitness industry, it's a time where, yes, gyms or companies are letting go of people. It's also a time where we've broken the mold, and there's kind of like there's no rules. And if you see it from a place of scarcity, when you see there's no rules, you see the things that are negative there. I just invite us to look at that little light of us that are servers and helpers and givers, and be like, well, is there an opportunity for it to be created, and create it for yourself? There's a difference between, as a CEO, Sara, there's a difference between getting a letter that's like, or an email saying, hey, do you have a job for me? And saying, you know what, Sara, I realize that you're doing these webinars every single week. What if, are you willing to take a risk on me? Because I'm going to take a risk on this. We could put 5 hours together a week for me to do this. That'll help the webinars grow to that, and maybe create this partnership. Do the work, get creative, take this time to step into your creativity and propose something versus just lifting up your hand. Help them solve a problem, because the last thing they can do, they're drowning in operations right now, because we all have to recreate our businesses and say, here's a spot where I think I can bring value to you based on the value that I have and the incredible service you're moving towards. Find a spot, find a niche, know what you do, and say, is this something we can do? Maybe Sara used to only hire full-time people. Now maybe she's open to different things. Maybe Joe used to only have personal trainers that worked in club, but now they're open to people doing hybrid. So maybe you can work from coast to coast if you're willing to work mornings, because that's what makes sense for your kids right now. Opportunities are abound. As much as things are moving, that means pieces are opening for us. There's a lot of openings out there as long as we take care of ourselves and we focus on where we can serve. I know we'll find some great opportunities.
I think that's great. And I think on that note, I would like to thank Adam Budacavalli, who is running our webinars, who is absolutely wonderful. He's one of our creative geniuses who helps us with the webinars and our certification. So thank you, Adam, for running this for us. Thank you, Melissa, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And all the faculty support you give SCW, couldn't do without it. Thanks to my new friend, Christine, who just came to us only, I want to say a couple of years ago, recently. And wonderful, wonderful. Natalie, who I met through CanFitPro, didn't really know her, but got to know her a little better in Asia. She's a wonderful coach. She has a wonderful training program on virtual training. And I just want to thank all of you for coming. Thank you for always supporting SCW. Hang tough, we're going to get through this, and everybody vote. Because why? Because we can. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night. Bye, everyone.
Bye.